Okay, so a quick thing I just wanted to highlight. This is Mikey again, appeared in one of our earlier videos when we were talking about shoulder pain. And I was just having a look at Mikey and something I thought was quite obvious that I'd like to draw to your attention. It's maybe useful for you in your own training and working with your clients. So if we assess Mikey in this position, just standing still, we can see, one thing we can see here is quite clearly, we can see the backs of his hands, okay? So when I stand, not that I'm hugely better, but we're not quite seeing so much of the back of the hand. So what is that telling me about Mikey? What it's telling me is that he's a little bit internally rotated at the shoulders. Yeah, so his shoulder is internally rotated rather than externally rotated. Okay? Now, why is that and what's the problem with it? Well, one of the problems with it is when we're in that more internally rotated position, again, what we do, I mentioned this in a previous video, is we'll close down that space between the head of the humerus and the acromion, that ledge of bone. And we're more prone in that situation when the shoulder is more internally rotated to those sort of impingement syndromes that we mentioned, where the rotator cuff muscles perhaps can be other things, but rotator cuff muscles get a bit jammed up under the acromion. But why is that? And I just wanted to highlight one thing. So what are the internal rotators of the shoulder? Well, the main superficial internal rotators of the shoulder, we've got other muscles, but the main ones I'll highlight is the pecs, okay, because the pecs insert here at the front of the shoulder and they will roll your arm in. Now that's a fairly obvious thing, and we know, don't we? We go into any gym and we see a lot of guys. Train your chest, Mikey?
Tiny bit.
Tiny bit? Oh, only a tiny bit. I train mine a lot because it's just a good feeling, right? But a lot of people do train their chest, and maybe they're prone to overtraining their chest. It's your classic mirror muscle stuff, isn't it? But so training the chest over time, gets short, internal rotator of the shoulder pulls us into that internal rotation. That maybe is a fairly obvious thing. So what do we do in that situation? Maybe a little less chest training, maybe a more balanced program, and maybe think about the muscles at the back here rather than always training chest, training things that are going to open us up. And we'll talk more about things like that. But clearly, you know, we'll think mid-fibers of traps, rhomboids bring us back, lower traps as well, potentially. But yeah, so we'll think about the opposite muscles. But the other thing I just wanted to highlight, because I think it's quite important, is another internal rotator of the shoulder are your lats, your latissimus dorsi muscles. That they come from the back here, don't they? And they come around, they sweep around, wonderful muscles, sweeping around, coming in but inserting at the front of your shoulder. They don't insert at the back of the shoulder, they insert at the front of the shoulder, okay? Now, so if we train those lats a lot, who doesn't train their lats a lot? Well, we all train our lats, right? They, again, because they're inserting here at the front, they pull us into internal rotation. So they tend to, and because they're pulling from the back, here they tend to pull us into internal rotation and downwards. So like this. So I think maybe there's sometimes a misconception that I'm training my back when I'm training my lats. That's got to be good for my posture because it's a balance to all the chest work I do. Well, in actual fact, training pecs and lats hard, it's just going to pull you more and more into this sort of position. And we get this sort of posture, which is going to make impingement, pain at the shoulder, more likely, which is what Mikey is suffering from at times in the gym. Okay, so I just wanted to highlight that point on lats. Clearly we want to train our lats, yes we do, but we need that to be balanced in there. So we're not always going to be pulling into here, here. We're going to be thinking about pulls that take us a little bit wider maybe and hit those mid-fibers of traps, rhomboids, etc., to take us back. And maybe thinking about the balance in our program in terms of chest and lat training and rotator cuff muscles and devoting as much time to the postural stuff as thinking about building muscle. Not sure I put that in the best way, but I think you know what I mean. Okay, Mikey, we're going to come on and we're going to show some stuff in other videos that will show us how we can address some of these things. But clearly, we need to open things up here a little bit. Look at my arms here, not here, Here, skydiver. It's a great exercise. We'll come on to it.